Yeah. Good evening, folks. Welcome to Flipcarbon TV. Flipcarbon TV is a brilliant concept introduced by my company, Flipcarbon. Flipcarbon is a niche strategic business consulting firm founded in 2014 and involved in business transformation projects for well-established as well as evolving organizations, helping them solve complex business problems and enabling escalated growth for them. It has helped them achieve the desired milestones, thereby helping them to unlock true business potential. As a boutique management consultancy firm, we have service offerings across all enabling functions like finance, human resources, sales and marketing, supply chain, technical, and manufacturing. Flipcarbon TV is, as I told, a brilliant initiative wherein we interview thought leaders in a particular function and or industry, asking them candid questions about the industry or the function. It is an initiative which will enable the viewers to get varied perspectives and opinions about different industries. So as a continuation, today we have Mr. Bipin Tibrewal, a senior chartered accountant and a finance professional who has worked in several industries and companies. His last assignment was CFO of Airbus India, where he has closely observed the Indian aviation industry. He's currently the director of BMBR Advisors and also an avid equity market analyst and investor. Welcome to Flipcarbon TV, Bipin.
Thank you very much, Deepak, and also to Flipcarbon TV, and who's given the opportunity to speak.
So today we will be asking candid questions about the airline industry or the aviation sector to Bipin, and we will get some, I'm sure we'll get some candid responses to our questions. So Bipin, to start with, let me ask you the most common question today during the COVID times, which is in the current pandemic scenario, what are some of the steps that the airline industry can take to sustain and survive? Because we know that today neither the domestic airlines is fully occupied and the international sector is closed. So how do you think they can sustain with almost zero or negligible cash flows?
Deepak, this is a very, very important, I will say, the question, and also very true for the current situation where in this pandemic, every sector is struggling. Some sectors are struggling less, some sectors are struggling more. Coming to the aviation sector, it is the biggest hit for the aviation sector because it's a service industry. And again, it becomes a non-core activity, or you can say non-essential services as of now, where people are more confined to their home, they don't want to travel. And it is a big blow for the aviation sector. No, coming back to the aviation sector again, on this topic of the airline survival, you can see that if I talk about India specific, up to the February, you can see the data that India was growing with 20%, 22%. Air traffic growth was there. Every month we were receiving new aircraft, 3-4 aircraft was getting received by the several airlines. And now suddenly, if you see the 60%, 70% of the aircraft are grounded and only 30% aircraft are running. In this scenario, you can just imagine how much cash flow bleeding must be done by all the airlines, where they have a huge cost of the staff costs are there, then the airport charges are there, and last but the least is the big expenses what they have to incur about. Even if they are not using the aircraft, they have to pay for the leasing of the aircraft. So coming to all these situations, I think so it is a very difficult if this continues for another 2 years. But we are very hopeful, and I'm personally hopeful that minimum by March 2021, the 70%, 75% capacity will be again be coming back to the sky, and that will be only the recourse for this airline industry to come to the survival. This is the first point. The second point is that the company has to take an immediate response to their cost structure. Wherever it is possible, they have to defer their future commitment for a certain period of time. Because suppose say if you have done an expansion plan and today your first choice will be to come to the sky for your current fleet, you can't hold for the expansion plans and all. So this type of a thing will further having a big blow for them. They have to renegotiate their contract, they have to renegotiate with the leasing company and all. Due to this only the airline can survive. Otherwise, it is a tough time for airline industry. Given the situation is specific to India, the taxes are high, airport authorities are not interested to bring down the airport charges and all. So put together, everything has got a huge impact, even though the operations are running at a bare minimum.
Yes, you raise a very valid point that each and airline industry has to actually focus heavily, very heavily on costs and also defer their expansion plans, which I'm sure they're doing. Also, I'm sure they would be defaulting on the leases for the aircrafts. So, what do you feel with the default? Do you think the leasing companies will take the aircrafts back, or how will they react on this?
See, everybody in the last 20 years, everybody has got benefited of the golden era of aviation, where the aviation was growing with in the Asian country and the India and China and all this country with 10%, 15%, 20% growth, wherever average of the world was 4% growth. So I think so. This is a period where people has to forego their some, you can say that what they have earned in the past, and they have to come together to survive the airlines. So leasing company also has to come for a moratorium, and what I'm listening also, few of the leasing company, they have already started negotiating with the airlines to have some moratorium, have some concessions and all, where all the people has to come together in the aviation sector to help each other.
And what do you think about the airport parking charges and whatever the charges the airports levy on these airlines? Do you think there will also be some kind of a deferment or waiver of these charges?
See, again, in India, specific to our country, we are not considering aviation as a essential services. Wherever in the foreign countries, you can see that every country is giving a lot of concession to the airlines in the form of wherever it is possible, government is coming forward and they're helping with the agency to give the concessions and all. But unfortunately, if it is a agro-based industries and all, government could have given the concessions and all, but they are not too much keen on these sectors where they can openly give the concessions. And most of these airports, they are being owned by the Airport Authority of India. Again, it's a government undertaking. Wherever it is private also, they have a stake in that airport also. In given the situation, it's a, I have not heard anything about as of now that government is interested to reduce the any type of the charges or to defer the charges or not to levy the charges. But most of the airlines, they are currently deferring these payments, but one day they have to make the payment.
Okay,
But
so
it
there will
will
be
be a
no.
great help. It will be a great help if the government can give the concessions to them for
So
their
you
survival.
believe you believe there will be deferment but no waiver.
Yeah.
Since we are talking about the government intervention, what other interventions do you think the government should bring in, or bring in some more concessions like the aviation tax on aviation fuel? It is the government has been raising taxes, although the petroleum prices have either come down significantly or they have hovered around the $30-40 per barrel. But government is continuously raising these taxes and making the fuel expensive. So do you think government will give some kind of a concession on aviation fuel for these companies to survive, as aviation fuel is the biggest cost, one of the biggest costs for them, biggest operating cost for them?
Yeah, it's very true. See, the main issue here is that in the petroleum sector, the Indian government are always levying higher taxes, and they are not giving a level playing field. If you see the any type of a fuel, whether it's aviation, petrol, diesel, compared to the any of the countries, we are still at a very high price, because whatever the prices goes down, the taxes get increased to make the cost higher basically. So in that case, the government should consider in the aviation sector to give the concession. And given the cost structure, you're right that it depends upon the airline to airline. 30 to 40% of the cost today, it goes in the fuel cost. So this is the bigger chunk of the cost, where if they can get some saving in the fuel cost, because the prices of the airfare is not increasing. So
Hmm.
given that's, and also the capacity is not increasing, they are running at 50%, 60% of the capacity. So given that situation, they are already able to not, they are not able to get the variable cost sometime in some of the schedules and all. So in that scenario, this will be a great saving for the airline industry if they get a good concessions, or at least they are at par with the any of the other countries when they are buying the aviation fuel.
Yeah, you're right. So Middle Eastern countries definitely, the airlines in those countries definitely have an advantage because the fuel cost is almost half of what we pay in India.
Yeah, sure, sure. And not only the Middle East, but if we compare
So,
with the Europe or Singapore or
yeah,
any other countries.
yeah. So tell me, in your opinion, when will normalcy be restored? And
See, given the
do the
current
airline,
situation,
yeah,
yeah,
go
continue,
ahead.
Deepak.
So I'm
Yeah,
saying,
so
in your opinion, when will the normalcy be restored, and do the domestic and global airline industry have the necessary cash reserves to sustain and survive till the time the normalcy is restored?
it's a very good question, and the issue is that how much deep pocket you have. So some airlines, they are deep pocket because they have a good past earning, they have a good cash reserves of the past and all. So they are in a better position, but a lot of airlines, they are in a cash and carry situations. So they are into neck to neck situations are there. So they have to go for the additional funding. They have to go for some type of a government concession to survive, or some new investors they have to find and all. So it all depends how fast we are getting a vaccine of the COVID-19, how fast the situation is going to be in a normal situation. But if it goes for 2 years to 3 years, definitely there it will be a blow for certain airlines. Either it will go for consolidation or to go for bankruptcy and all. So all these possibilities are there depending upon how prolonged this COVID-19 exists. And if we can able to find a vaccine in 2020, the chances of good chances of all airlines to survive is quite brighter.
You raised a pertinent point here that either the airline industry will go for consolidation, or some of the airlines would go the Kingfisher and the Jet Airways way. So let's take that question, that what were some of the failures in your opinion, which or some of the reasons for the failure of the Jet Airways and the Kingfisher Airlines to actually go down the drain?
See, there are various of reasons are there, but if I say the very simple reasons, I will say first, whenever you are operating in any country, you have to understand the country very well. So India is a country where people value for the money. So they don't want to pay even 500 rupees higher if some other airlines are offering the ticket. Given the full services, especially Kingfisher and Jet Airways, and when you compete with the low cost airlines and all, you don't have a price advantage to charge the higher services. And this is number one. Number two, what happens that you have to go for continuous innovations and all to find the new segment, or you have to keep on controlling your cost structure compared to your revenue. So when you are outgoing with your cost structure with the revenue, definitely the failure is imminent, which happened for these two airlines. They are not able to reach to the cost structure which can match with the revenue. Over the period, you will eat up your equity, you will eat up your loans, and then you will face the situation what they have faced the situation in in a very short time also.
Yeah, and also, what I understood is because of all these issues, suddenly the banks stopped funding them because they were very heavily relying on banks to fund their even working capital. And given that they had already exhausted their equity and their reserves, the banks stopped funding them, and it didn't take much time after that for both the airline companies to actually shut shop. So that's a very valid point, that you have to control your costs and ensure that they are below your pricing and revenue.
Yeah.
So having
So
talked
for,
about, do you
yeah,
think
continue.
technology and innovation could play in the current scenario?
See, this
So what I'm
industry is a,
asking,
yeah,
go ahead,
continue. Continue,
go
continue.
ahead. So I'm asking, what role do you think technology and innovation could play in the current scenario?
See, this is the industry which is in the cash and carry type of industry. When you buy the fuel, you don't get you can say credit for months and all. Almost you get either cash and carry or 1 week or 2 week of a credit. And most of the things are cash and carry type of situation. So same thing for the tickets also. When you buy a ticket, you have to pay immediately. So this industry is always depending upon the working capital, and this working capital is coming with the advance booking and all. No, you are rightly said that innovation and technology. So innovation and technology is very important for airlines because they have to be a cash positive always, and this innovation and technology can always help them to attract in a better terms, to do a more advanced booking and to have a more cash flow in the systems. And also the second point is that innovation has always worked very good. If you see the 15 years back or 20 years back, how badly the booking was done. No, it is a click of the button in your mobile, or you are just traveling or anywhere you can do. You don't have to go to the booking counters and all. And again, there is a still they are using a lot of innovation technology, but again, AI is very important, artificial intelligence and how to attract the customers and all. So, and then in the segment wherever any of the airlines are scheduling the aircraft, they have always a competition. In that competition, your target should be that how you can have a 90% plus capacity where it is booked before 1 day or 2 days. So then only it becomes important for any airline to survive. So in that situation, yes, technology can always give a better advantage for any of the airlines who comes first with a better way of working. But given the situation, these things they can do. But if they want to do any modification in the aircraft and all, which is highly regulated because of the safety measures, security measures and all, there it is, these aviation sectors are very slow compared to any other type of a technology driven equipment. Like say, when you talk about mobile, every 6 months you can have a new type of a mobile, because there the technology can just be used to make it happen. It is not a security or safety and all, but aircraft, it is more of a security and safety. So there are a lot of innovations and technology improvement can be done on the ticket booking services and all, but it cannot be used much by the for changing in the aircraft technology, which go with a long way of a proof of concept and also testing and all, and approval of the regulators and all. That takes a decade sometimes.
Okay, that's bureaucracy at core. But I understand the safety and the security measure here. So tell me, given that the current scenario is pretty bad for the airline industry and they're not attracting any cash flows, how easy or difficult is it for the airlines to get funding from banks and NBFCs? And also, will the promoters be funding the airlines currently for them to sustain even the working capital or the costs that they're incurring today? What is your opinion on that?
I think so. They don't have a choice. If there is a promoter who is a deep pocket, they should pump the money in the airlines to make it survival. Because whatever they will pump the money, the banks will be more comfortable to lend additional money based on that. But if they are totally dependent on the banks, it will be a catch-22 situation where the bank will be always be cautious to give the additional funding unless until their debt equity ratios are good and they have a good level of you can say the projections for the future, and bank understand your projections and bank believe in your projections.
Okay, so it is a tough going as far as the COVID situation is concerned. So let's come to the industry disruptor in India, Indigo Airlines. Why do you think Indigo is successful as an airline? What are the key factors to its success?
I can say that they are from the beginning, whatever the trial they have did, or they did the right thing from the beginning when they started aircraft. So they were very focused on the timing issue, that their aircraft was always in time, because they taught everybody that we have to be on time so that the customer can rely on you. Number one. Number two is that they always focus on the world benchmark, where they are the best in the benchmark in any type of a cost, you can say. So you can benchmark their cost with any of the airlines. They will be far below their cost structure, whether it is a maintenance cost, whether it is their negotiated cost. So they and what they have started the model from the beginning, they give the order in bulk and then at a very good price, and then they lease back to the leasing company, and there they get a good amount of profit basically. So they, before starting the, you can say, the aircraft on the schedule, they book the profit. So they are really done a very smart way of buying the aircraft and selling the aircraft and rerunning the aircraft on the lease and all. And every 5 years they change the aircraft with a new aircraft because leasing company, they take away those aircraft. So in that case, their maintenance costs are low. So they have really worked out in a very nice model where they are so good so far. But future, I don't know the future how it will be there, because the competition is going to change and demand and supply is going to change, because in the past there was the huge demand of the aircraft. No, most of the aircraft delivery is getting delayed and all, so they will be having a commitment to take the delivery and all. So how they will be able to plan, that will be important to watch.
Okay, understand. So coming back to the Air India, Air India has been a great airline and has its glory in the past. But tell me, what do you think is the future of Air India?
See, I am the fan of this aircraft because this is the first aircraft I've flown in 90s basically, where you feel proud when you are flying with the Maharaja, and you really felt like a Maharaja. But over the period after 2004, this airline, Air India, unfortunately has gone through the very bad times because of lot of reasons, merger of international and domestic aircraft together, Air India and Indian Airlines together. And not only that, then overcommitting their balance sheet on the new purchases and all. There are various reasons are there. Let's not go into that deep structures and all. But as you have asked about a disinvestment, I will say that this is a nice property or golden property where they have got really a golden assets in terms of they have a lot of rights which no other airlines are having, a prime schedule rights of the different airport, international airports and all. And they have a nice, I will say, the MROs facilities they have a engineering facilities they have a training facility, but all are underutilized. As a government sector, they were not able to use efficiently their asset, which a private sector can use. So given the
Mhm.
opportunity, if any good company take over this company, they can better use the asset, and this asset will ultimately bring the good benefit to the price at which what they will buy, because you buy a depressed asset, then you really make a money on a depressed asset, just like Hindustan Zinc or other sectors, which people has really get benefited. They were running at 30-40% capacity, and then after the private takeover, they were running at 100% capacity. Same thing here in Air India also. Again, the issue is that if you clean the balance sheet or the government take the past liability into their head, and they make these asset as a clean slate and they sell, they can get a good price. But if they want to sell with the old liability and all, might be it will be difficult for anybody who has to discount more. So it is better to get the real value of the asset of this investment rather not getting discounted by the liability. So government should really work out with the consultant and all how to come with a clean slate to a person who is going to buy and who is going to make this asset more valuable for the future.
Yeah, very, very pertinent response, Bipin. So actually, this investment of Air India looks pretty difficult given its liabilities and given that it continuously gets funded by the government, plus also the quantum of staff that they have on in the airline. So it's a difficult exercise, but let's see what happens.
No,
Very
but
difficult.
again, just adding to your point, there is a way out how you can work with the past liability and also work out on the shareholder agreement. If they really give a good chance in the shareholder agreement where they
Hmm.
can, the private company can come out with this liability and they are not going to discount those costs and all, the disinvestment can be really going to happen. But the government has to rework out a lot of things on that.
Yep. So we'll come to our last question. what do you think is the outlook for the global and the domestic aviation sector?
See, today the world is flat. What we understood before COVID has taken the global space, and we have heard about globalization. All so these type of things are very temporary phase. I don't know whether it is a 1 year, 2 year, 2.5 years, but world is going to be back to the pre-COVID period. Once the world will be back to the pre-COVID period, I don't think so that what we have seen the golden period, it is going to come again. The world is going to grow 10 years. Every 10 years, the traffic is going to, air traffic is going to double every 10 years. Asian countries, they are still very back than the Western countries in terms of the travel. But if you calculate the travel, what the Western world is doing and Eastern world is doing, there is a vast gap is there, which is going to give a additional, you can say the good number in the future, where people from Malaysia, India, or Singapore, or China, all these countries, Vietnam, they are having a huge potential in the future to grow. And I feel that Africa is going to be another decade where Africa is also going to take a good shape. In that case, I will say it is going to be in the vicious circle where the things go slow for some period, but again it will pick up better than the before. So I'm very positive for the after the 1 or 2 years.
It's a very optimistic outlook for the future. As always, Bipin, you have been an optimist and will remain an optimist, I think.
Yeah.
So on the lighter side, when do you think you will be traveling in an aircraft?
It's a very personal question. So people have a different view. First of all, I will be thinking that if vaccine get in fact injected to me tomorrow, I can travel day after tomorrow. So that is the first criteria, but I'm not planning to do for at least for next 2 months, given the situation in our country or in abroad also. So before September, I will not be keen to travel.
Yeah, provided we either get a vaccine or we either get a cure for the COVID-19. I think we'll have to wait for that. So thank you very much, Bipin. It was a pleasure speaking to you. Thank you from Flipcarbon. And I hope that you and your family stay healthy and stay safe. And we will again touch base with you for another round of a thought leadership interview. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Deepak. Thank you, Flipcarbon.
Welcome. Take care. Bye.